This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
We're going to be overrun. If Obama won't obey the law and secure the borders, then it's not immigration, it's invasion.
Today we head to Georgia to meet two great men running for Congress, both endorsed by Governor Sarah Palin. Barry Loudermilk and Dr. Bob Johnson are here. We strap in with the Colonel once again. Rob Maness joins us from Louisiana. A brand new Commonwealth Common Sense with Virginia's Susan Stimson is coming up. And just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman from Missouri. First, we say hello to Barry Loudermilk, who's running for Congress in Georgia's 11th District. Assemblyman, welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio.
Well, it's definitely an honor to be with you.
Well, we appreciate that, sir, and it's an honor to have you here because you have a proven record as a conservative in the state assembly, and you also have that multifaceted background. You're an Air Force vet, a small business owner, and a family man. So I think people can see why Sarah Palin endorsed you.
Well, we were incredibly honored to have Sarah's endorsement, and we do share a little bit of background. I lived in Alaska for about 10 years, so we were neighbors at one time.
What has her endorsement meant to the campaign?
It's really given a big boost to our campaign. I mean, this has been a really hard-fought battle. We've been campaigning for over a year, even though we were the top vote getter in the primary. Coming out of the primary, we're going up against a seasoned veteran who had served in Congress, even ran as a presidential candidate under the Libertarian ticket, a very vicious campaigner. And so having Sarah's endorsement just really, really gave a boost to our campaign. I mean, having Governor Palin, a national figure like that, come out and endorse our campaign, not just her position or her title, but the values that she stands for, really just gave a lot of credibility to our message of what we've been saying and what I believe in. And I think that is what has really just re-energized our entire campaign.
Let's dive into some of the issues, sir, that you're tackling on the campaign trail. Immigration is a red-hot one nationwide. Tell us where you stand there.
Well, it always amazed me when I was in the State House and in the State Senate in Georgia. It seemed like whenever there was an issue that was primarily brought on because we weren't enforcing laws we had already, we wanted to create new laws. That's what I see with immigration. We have to seal the border. Then let's enforce the laws we already have on the books. We need to reform a broken legal immigration system. Our work visa program is not working. But most of the problems that we're facing right now is because we are not enforcing the laws that are already on the books. So before we do anything, we got to seal the border, secure the border, and then enforce the laws we already have on the books.
Obamacare, are you ready for a full repeal there?
Oh, beyond ready. I mean, as a small business owner, I have personally seen the effect on my business, not just the increased cost for my employees, but my customers who are no longer spending as much money. I have an IT services business. They're holding off on upgrades that they need to do. They're not expanding their businesses, not just because of the increased cost, but the uncertainty that Obamacare is bringing. I visited a manufacturing plant the other day. They are poised to grow, but they're not growing beyond 38 employees. They're just hiring temporary employees. And they said that because of if they were to go beyond that magic number of 50, they would lose money. So even though their business is growing, they're not growing their business because of the restrictions on Obamacare. The reality is, as long as this president is in the White House, we're probably not going to get a full repeal because we just won't have the votes to override a presidential veto, but we have to continue fighting for it, and we need to start putting reforms in place and repealing some of the most egregious aspects of Obamacare.
It's amazing, isn't it? So in essence, you have small business owners, they're being penalized for doing well.
That's exactly right. And the strange thing is there is more people without health insurance now than there was before. It's just shifted who doesn't have it. The majority of the folks who didn't have, well, I shouldn't say a majority, but many of the people who didn't have health insurance prior to Obamacare had chosen not to have health insurance. I mean, when I was first starting my business, I went for 10 years and I didn't have health insurance for my family. It was too costly. My family was relatively healthy, so we just paid cash every time they went to the doctor. And that actually worked out well for me. So I never did even get, even when I got to our business was doing well, I chose not to have health insurance myself until about 10 years after I had started my business. I decided, well, the children are getting older, they're doing a little bit more, business is doing well, I'll go ahead and get health insurance. I know a lot of families that were in that same situation. They chose not to have health insurance because they could just pay cash. Usually the services were less expensive if they did it that way than just paying these premiums. Basically, they chose to pay for their service after they received the service instead of before.
Sure, making that choice yourself, not having the big government do it.
Exactly.
Now, you are pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and you vowed to fight for our country's traditional values. Why are these things so vital?
Well, John Adams, in his first address to the U.S. military after becoming president, he said, our nation, or our Constitution was for a religious and moral people. It is wholly inadequate for the government of any other. Our founding fathers knew the importance of having a moral society. We were designed as a nation with a very, very small and limited government. And limited government only works when there is a moral people, because if you look at our Declaration of Independence, it says the purpose of government is to protect rights. Well, if you have people who respect each other's rights, they tend not to violate that, so you can get by with limited government. But if you have an immoral society, then government tends to grow, because then there is a greater need for law enforcement, for protection. But also when you have a government that grows at the rate ours is growing, it tends to go outside of what our founding fathers envisioned, which was to protect rights. And that's what we've seen in Washington, D.C., is this rapid growth of government where 90% of what the federal government does is outside of that scope of the 18 powers in the Constitution. But having a moral society is a benchmark of a representative republic, and our founding fathers were entirely clear on that.
You mentioned earlier about immigration and about already having laws on the books that need to be enforced. Do you see that with some gun situations, too? I mean, it seems the laws are already there, and every time they try to make these other quote-unquote gun laws, it's an absolute disaster, what we've seen in Chicago and Washington, D.C. and other places. Is that another situation where the laws are already there and just need to be enforced?
In part, we have too many laws regarding firearms. Every time you have a law regarding access to or regarding the ability to keep and bear arms, it only restricts the law-abiding citizen from being able to protect themselves. Bad guys are going to have the guns no matter what you do. You cannot totally restrict a criminal from getting a gun. He's just going to get it. He's going to get it illegally. When you look at the Bill of Rights and the concept of our founding fathers, that Second Amendment basically was saying the federal government should have nothing to do with legislation regarding the ability to keep and bear arms. Those decisions were totally left up to the states. However, the majority of the regulation that we have now and the majority of legislation does come out of Washington, D.C. And so I believe that we enforce what's on the books and we repeal some of the most egregious laws that are restricting the ability for people to be able to obtain and keep and bear a firearm.
How about your dedicated staff and volunteers? Y'all are out there in the rain, knocking on doors and shaking hands. We saw this old school approach work in Virginia recently, and I think it's good to see that real, old school campaigning.
Hey, that's what we've done. First of all, we surrounded ourselves with people that believed in a cause, not a candidate, but they believe in the cause of getting our nation back, restoring America back to the ideas of our founding fathers. Our children don't have a future in the direction that we're going. And so we surrounded ourselves with people that believe in a cause, not the candidate. And yesterday, it was pouring down rain yesterday morning. We had what we call the Super Saturday Rally, the Saturday before the election. We had over 100 people come out, stand in the rain, and then go out door to door. I have run a grassroots campaign when I first ran for the State House and when I ran for the State Senate. And our consultant said, well, those are things that work at that level, but you just don't do that running for Congress. We proved them differently. I mean, it's one of those things that we said, look, if you're going to represent the people, you got to know the people. And we've knocked on, believe the last number they told me was getting close to 20,000 doors that we've knocked on. We've interfaced with 40 to 50,000 voters, made 15,000 phone calls. We reached out to the people because that's the only way you can represent people, is to actually know them and let them get a chance to know you.
Well, it's great to see, and you can feel the enthusiasm. You mentioned earlier about your Alaska connection. You met your wife there.
I did, yeah. After I graduated high school, my dad moved me to Alaska to work as a construction laborer. And on the weekends, I was volunteering at a local church in Anchorage, Alaska, doing a bus ministry to some of the lower income areas of the town. And also working in that ministry was a beautiful young girl whose parents had moved to Alaska to work construction. And we just celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary earlier this year. So I lived in Alaska for several years there, left working construction, ended up joining the Air Force, and my last duty assignment was back at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska. And that's where two of our children were born.
That is tremendous, sir. Tell our listeners how they can learn more about you in the campaign.
Well, you can go to the best places. Go to our website. It's standwithbarry.com. That's standwithbarry.com. From there, you can get to our Facebook page, our Twitter feed, and even contribute online. We've just got about 48 hours till the polls close here. Tuesday is the runoff election here. We're focused on getting people out to the polls. As I just told the group a little while ago, we are a government of we the people, but it only works when we the people go and exercise that right to control the government through the ballot box. And so we're really emphasizing to get people out to the polls, but join on our social media page. You can go to our website, standwithbarry.com, and interface with us there.
Barry Loudermilk, thank you, sir. Congratulations on your anniversary, and we hope to be saying congratulations to you on Tuesday for something else.
All right. Well, I look forward to it, and I'd love to be on your show again.
For more on the Loudermilk campaign, go to standwithbarry.com. That's standwithbarry.com.